Hello, everyone. This is part 3 of our Engineers in Germany topic. Today, we're going to be talking about finishing your master's and looking for a job. How does that usually go? How difficult it is, and what would be helpful to do, and things to avoid when you're looking for a job in Germany. And that is specifically when you're transitioning from studying in Germany to working in Germany. Today, again, I have with me Omer. I have Georgi, I have Osama, I have Diego, and we have Adil is back this week. Welcome back, Adil. And we're gonna start right from the where we stopped last time. So we were talking about master thesis. You might be doing your master thesis with the company, or you might be doing it in the chair in the institute, wherever you are studying. So I'm gonna start by asking first the people who did it with the industry, with companies. So I know Diego, for example, you had your master thesis with an industrial company. Can you tell us a bit about that, and how did that help you transition into finding a job?
Yeah, sure. Well, for me, it was a special case because I was hired by a company to do my thesis. However, I was doing most of the work from the university. So I had to go to the company a few times during the semester, but most of the work I was doing in the university, especially in the lab, because I had to use the press and some machines that the company didn't have, and they had like this special equipment in the university. Um, but overall, I mean, was I don't know, maybe you could compare it to some of the other guys, but for me, it was really strange because it didn't feel like it was working for the company itself, but they were like paying for my salary, and I was doing the research for them.
So it felt like of course it's temporary, but it's like an indirect hiring. You're still using all the same office in the uni, maybe the same
Yeah,
PC.
yeah, exactly. And it definitely helped to find a job afterwards. However, the job that I got afterwards is not because of the company or like working with this company. It was more because of the relation
Mm-hmm.
with the professor at the university,
I see.
because he had some other contacts, and then eventually I got a position with a professor from another university in Germany.
So that was through your contact in your university, you got kind of introduced to another professor in another university. That helped.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, mainly because of the topic,
Mm-hmm.
because
So
he was
what you
interested in the
choose,
research.
mhm,
Yeah.
what you choose as a topic will definitely kind of decide for you which direction in industry you could go. That would help you in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, it can help a lot, a lot. Of course, there are some people that they probably had like a different topic for the
Mm-hmm.
thesis, and then they eventually went to in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely helps. Whatever you do or of your thesis, when you try to find a job, they're going to think that you were specialist in that topic.
Mm-hmm. At the end of that work, were you able to request a recommendation letter for a 6 month project?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, here in Germany, there's a law that if you work for any company, they have to give you a certificate of employment, which is pretty much a recommendation letter, so
Mm-hmm.
stating what you did and how was your performance.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finished the thesis, my supervisor from the company prepared this letter listing all the tasks that I had to do, everything that I accomplished, and this is like a document that I had like to apply for jobs afterwards.
See, did any of you get a recommendation letter when they did their master thesis in the university, for example?
I mean, in my case, I did my thesis in a company,
Mm-hmm.
but of course, I also asked my professor from uni to give me a recommendation letter. So by the end of the day, of course, I mean, you can request it, and then you can have one from the company as well as one from uni, something like this.
So the company will judge your work ethics, your productivity, and the university will judge your knowledge and your methodological work and all that.
Yeah, kind of. So for instance, for the uni, it's also important to mention things like, yeah, communication was quite good, regular feedback rounds and everything. If
Mm-hmm.
you didn't show up in 6 months, of course, they're not going to say anything about it, but they can say things like, he was always just coming back for feedback, keeping us updated and those kind of things. And when it comes to the company one, as Diego said, like, companies do have this kind of template they just fill out for you.
Mm-hmm.
But other companies, like potential employers, also know like it's a formality. They have to give this letter, so they really look between the lines to really find out those things where they went the extra mile to write something good about you. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much like a standard because it's a template they have to fill out. So it's really easy to see from that letter, like, was it just a formality or is it a real recommendation letter? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I see. So you could get the hidden message in that letter.
yeah,
Things were
easy, super
positive
easy.
or were
Yeah, yeah,
negative, right?
yeah.
Okay. For you, I'm going to ask Usama. So in your case, when you were doing your master thesis, just a short question, was it with the company or with the university?
Company.
Company.
Yeah.
When you started working on that with the company, that kind of give you already an idea of where do you want to go next? Like what would be the job for you based on that experience of the master thesis?
For me, it was a bit different as to compared to Diego, because this happens quite often that I was working in a very specialized research topic, and there's not a whole industry based on this topic. So for me, it was obviously not clear where I would end up after this. I could go into PhD in that area, but I could not work as an engineer in that area because it was a purely research topic. So I had to use for my job search. Then I was back to my skills that I had gained from the thesis. So the tools I used, the programming, the knowledge of things. So that's what I used to get a job, not the thesis topic itself.
Okay. So one thing we could have learned, or I think we do learn when we reach the phase at which we're looking for a job, is that we know this companies might be interested in someone who can learn and adapt to what is required rather than just carry already the knowledge and just join in, right?
Yeah.
So it is a skill itself to be able to learn and to adapt fast to a new topic. And it's definitely better if you have the same fundamental topic, right? If it's programming, that you know programming, not if you are a designer and jump into a coding company, right? So you might be able to learn, but the learning curve is going to be much different when it's totally a different topic, right?
Yeah.
So Georgi, you also had a similar study, right? The background is also part of the control process. And how was your master thesis? You told us last time that it was in a company. I think you might be muted. Be careful. It was in a company. It wasn't in a company. It was in the university. How did that go?
Yeah. In the sense that it was interesting. I wasn't prepared at the beginning how serious a master thesis is. You know, I had a wrong perception of what it should be and how it should be done. So at the beginning, I had to adapt on this very serious and it's a full-time job. It's like they count it like the whole semester. So you have to put in the work like every day for the whole time. And yeah, at the beginning, and also we had like a weekly presentation of what I did that week, what I worked on, and how is it going. So yeah, at the beginning I had to adapt quite a lot on that kind of a schedule, but yeah, that's for the best. And yeah, because it was in my institute, it was in the university, it's mostly theoretical, and it was a good, let's say, preparation maybe for a PhD. But I didn't choose that path. I chose to go into industry. So, but nevertheless,
Okay.
it doesn't matter if you're just preparing maybe for a PhD, but then you suddenly want to go to industry. It's not a problem, or vice versa, I would guess.
So
So
we'll come back. We'll come back to the topic of how do you decide and how do you move forward. Let's finish with the topic of the master phase and then jump to the application phase. So Omer, you were doing your master thesis in Turkey, right? Because this is what your scholarship requires, and you told us this last time. So while you were doing the master thesis in Turkey, you were doing it with the company. I think you mentioned the company last time. How did that prepare you for what the job would be like and what job would suit you?
They had the opportunities. They say, okay, we have three different topics. Which one of your favorite? And I said, okay, vibration and acoustic. Then my supervisor made a good introduction for me. He fulfilled the gaps, what I don't know. Then interactively in the beginnings of master thesis, I learned a lot and I bring also the results. At the middle of the master thesis, my supervisor changed the company and I didn't have supervisor. I had the official supervisor, but not the real supervisor. And the second part of the master thesis was painful. So I need to find the solutions by myself. When I stuck in some point, I spent a lot of time. But learning by doing. Sometimes you shouldn't go very deep. Just you should be pragmatic and just bring the results. Especially in industry, they are looking for the results. They don't care what kind of scientific work you bring. Because at the end of the day, they need to deliver the product. So therefore, this mentality I observed there, and that was the different thing, but I didn't see it at the university.
So what you kind of learn is priority in industry would be to move forward with the product itself, rather than investigate too much the theory behind the the simulation and the process parameters and all that.
Let's say your simulation has 70% accuracy. It's okay for them. They don't care the 90% accuracy.
Yeah.
Because
So
70% they can also earn money.
So they can tolerate a reduced scientific accuracy as long as they increase their production, their output in the production of the product. I see. So that's one thing to notice first as a difference between study, education, theory, and equations, and practical manufacturing production of different systems, whether it's control systems or components manufactured. Okay, so you all kind of got different experience through each of your projects, and I will again go to Diego. When did you think is the time to start applying for a job? Like, you were doing your master thesis already, and you started applying, or you even started applying before your master thesis?
I remember I started applying like in the middle of my thesis. I started applying for jobs already. Or maybe even before that, because I knew it was difficult. I have talked to other students and everybody was already graduated, or some people even were even graduated already and they couldn't find a job. So I started as soon as possible, just like applying everywhere, contacting different people, asking for positions. And to be fair, I don't know. I cannot say when is the perfect time. Depends on you, what you want to do. Also, what are your plans. But in my case, I'd say as soon as possible. Even before you finish, you can start applying. And some people that I know, they even got like job offers before completing the thesis. I have friends that they're working with me and they were working on the thesis for a different company, but they already had a job offer from another place, from another company. So everything is possible.
In your case, how much was the break between finishing the thesis and starting the job?
There was a gap. I think I presented my thesis in the end of January, and then I started my job 1st of May. So there was like a couple of months. But during that time, I was still working at the university as a graduate assistant with one of the PhD candidates. So I was doing that on my free time, let's say, as a side job. So I wasn't like just waiting for my job. I was still working there and also looking for other positions that could be more interesting as well. Because looking for a job is also a full-time job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of go quick on the same question for all of you one by one. So I'll restate the question for you, Adel. How long was the break between you finished your thesis and you started your job?
Yeah, so the break was like I took 4 weeks off, something like this. So I had some job offers before even starting my thesis. I started applying like more or less 9 months before finishing before my kind of like expected date of graduation. So 9 to 10 months, because I was just applying only for the trainee programs, nothing else. And for the training programs, normally they recommend you to apply 6 to 9 months in advance because, you know, it takes some time for the whole process and all. And then there are some other kind of deadlines or fixed joining dates and everything. So in that sense, I would say it was quite some work in those 2-3 months, but once you have some job offers before even starting your thesis, you know, it's very different kind of approach to your thesis, and you're really relaxed and all. And then after the thesis, I took like 4 weeks off and then just started the job.
So you feel a bit more secure when you start very early and you already have the job offers.
Sure.
Okay. So Georgi, for you, like, again, same question. How long was the break between finishing the thesis and starting the job?
First of all, I would like to advise to start applying for a job as soon as you get the thesis. So because as we talked, even applying for a thesis could be a process, but once you get it, start applying for a job, because I made the opposite mistake. I was so surprised and so overwhelmed with the thesis, I didn't apply at all during my thesis. So I just focused on that. And even after graduating, I think I even took some days off. I went home. So yeah, I finished, I don't remember, quite somewhere in March, and I started the job in end of September. But yeah, taking account that I took some 1 month off after graduation, after presenting it, and then I came back here in Germany. I did some side jobs, some jobs to get some kind of money, and then yeah, after that, and applying for a job full time.
So how much was exactly the break from the day you graduated till the day you signed your contract?
As I said, I finished, I think, in March, and I got the job maybe end of August or beginning of September. I signed the contract and I started on 25th of September.
So that's about 6 months, right?
Yeah,
break time
something
between
like
the two. And your master thesis was 6 months on average, or that's the time usually for a master thesis. So you had 6 months
Yeah,
that
it was
you used to apply, and because you just didn't use that time, the moment you finished your master thesis, started applying, and then it took you that 6 months to get the job.
yeah. As I said, I had after graduating, after presenting, I took 1 month off, so I didn't apply for 1 month. So I started maybe in May, maybe I think I started applying.
Okay. So you could say it took 4 months to find a job.
4 or 5
on an average.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how other people have experiences.
It is case specific, so we will see that sometimes it could take more, sometimes it could take less.
Yeah, we all heard every type of story, like from getting the job immediately like in 1 month after start applying, and you hear stories about people not finding a job even for 1 year. But I guess that's specific maybe on qualification skills, how you do on the interviews and your documents applying. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to the interviews in a second. I still want to ask the same question for Omer. So how long was the break in your case?
Quite long. I think I have the record here. So it took 8 months after graduations to find a job, to get the offer. For me, it's a little bit challenging because after my thesis in Turkey, I came back to Germany and settling again, looking left and right, adapting myself, and then sending hundreds of applications, then get one-to-one interviews. And at the end, I made it, and one worked.
So what made it a bit more difficult for you is because you had to go back to Turkey, then transition again to Germany, and then start looking for a job. So that included finding an apartment again, maybe moving your stuff, setting up some things. I see. So that it's not that comfortable when you have to leave and then come back to continue, right? I see. So let's move again with the much even shorter kind of a jump question for everyone. On average, Omer, how many applications did you send?
At least 200, at least.
At least 200.
Oh man, 200?
Yeah, I think I applied for 5 months and make it one application for every 2 days, or one application per day. So that's 30 multiplied by 5. So
Oh,
So about
yeah,
150.
about 200 or something.
a lot
Also,
of respect for you guys.
Yeah.
Diego?
Yeah, I would say like anywhere between 100 to 150 applications, because I was doing like 3-4 applications per day every day. So
Okay.
there were like quite a few applications.
So it is meant to be an intensive process, it seems. Adil, I guess it's not the
Yeah,
case.
it's a full-time job.
What's in your case, Adil? Because you seem so surprised with those numbers.
Yeah, because I mean, I applied like I think 22 to 25 applications I did, and mostly I know from people like the number I know is roughly 60 to 70. So
Okay.
150 or 200. That's why I was a bit surprised, but
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, for me, it was like maybe 40, something like that. So
40. So we have going up to 200, at least in 3 cases on an average, to 25, which probably is so optimal, so perfect case scenario.
I think it's
Very rare
it's
case, right?
luck at something, yeah.
Yeah, and the bell curve, you would be that 0.05% at the tip of it, right? And the guys are a bit, in front of the middle of the bell curve. You could assume the average maybe something up to 100, maybe. Of course, you have to consider the situation you're applying in. Is the economy going well? Are companies, investing in new jobs, or is the economy crashing and companies are firing employees, right? So you cannot generalize and say this is always the situation. But what we could at least say that maybe in these days, not all companies are expanding their businesses, right? So maybe that number could have went up now, right? For the people who will be applying for jobs at the moment.
Yeah, 2017 was a very good year. That we were
17, 18. 18 was quite good as well, yeah.
So there was some investments, some expansions, some changes in the industry. So I guess we were on a relatively lucky time. Okay.
even now.
Are you all, is anyone familiar with something called ghost jobs?
No.
So none of you have heard of ghost jobs?
No.
The term, no.
The term, no. So I'll describe what it is. It's a case where a company, officially, a company could post a job that they already hired for, or they post a job that they don't even intend to hire for. Are you familiar with
Why?
Yeah, it's a formality. They have to put the job offer online for like 2 weeks or so because of some laws. But technically, they sometimes already decide on someone internally from the company or whatever, like a master's thesis student. They know they're going to hire that person, but for law, they have to put it online for like 2 weeks. And then later they have to convince the workers' council and all that, no other application came and he's a really good or she's a really good applicant. So that's why we just hired him. Something like
I understand this scenario, but the other scenario, I don't understand why would they do, like if they don't intend to hire, but they put an offer. Why?
We'll pick one, talk about it a bit more, and then discuss it.
Okay.
So in the case where a company would post a job that they already have hired for, or already they have selected the candidate, it is part of the law in some cases, or in many cases, that they need to offer this to the public and give the chance for anyone to apply for that job. And they might consider the application that arrive, that people send. And if sometimes they might find a good candidate that they might, whenever they have a new position, they might consider that candidate for that position. But what generally happens, as far as I was understood, or I was told, that if you send whatever CV you have, no matter how good you are, if already they made their decision, you're going to get an automatic rejection. And that has nothing to do with your qualifications, capabilities, or whatever, motivation. So this is one case where you might see a lot of job offers and you get rejections and you get the impression that you're not worth it, maybe. Let's talk about, before we will discuss this further, but to talk about the second case where a company could offer a job or post a job and never hire for it. As far as I was told, that has two motivations. One is from an HR team that wants to, set up different job positions, collect some CVs, figure out, some contacts, some good candidates, and maybe next year when they do have a job, then they will, already have a list to select from or consider. That's one thing. A second thing is a strategy from some companies where they want to appear that they are growing and they are hiring. So they have 20 job offers. If you go to the website, you see their name. This company is hiring. This company is growing. So these are two examples. I'm not saying a lot of companies do that. Some companies do that, these kind of things. But what I wanted to talk about is the final result of this, where you go online, you find 50 jobs, you apply for all those 50, and you get 49 rejection letters. I guess when you mentioned 200 applications and 150 application, you've all have experienced that, right? I have experienced that too. So applying, and sometimes you get the rejection letter in half an hour time, right? Maybe an automatic one.
Yeah.
So,
but even worse, the problem is when they don't reply at all. That's also
Most of them
quite.
don't reply at all.
So a rejection is still 5 times better than no reply.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if they don't reply, let's say within 4 weeks, you should just forget about it. I mean, a regular time is 2 to 3 weeks, but after 4 to 6 weeks, just forget about it, So.
Okay, I'll go through a round of examples and I'll start with myself. I applied for a big company known in Luxembourg. I got the rejection reply 7 months later. So you can tell me whatever examples you have. So I'll go, Osama, do you have an example as such, like any kind of a strange relationship with a HR team?
I think I've had the same thing as ghost job that you mentioned. I was hired for a job just because the boss knew a guy that I knew as well. But they also had to put the job on the internet. So I was already hired for the job, but the job posting stayed for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And they probably
so you were that candidate for the ghost job that they selected. So you could kind of confirm that there was a practice at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. Diego, do you have an example of a strange application case?
Yeah. Actually, my current job at Rolls-Royce, what happened is that I applied 1 year, got rejected. I mean, did all the online tests and then eventually got rejected. And then I tried again in the second year, applied for the trainee position, did the test online, and then I got rejected. And this actually, it took some time. I applied, I did the test online, and maybe like 5-6 weeks later, I got a rejection. And then I said, okay, I mean, they rejected me, so that's sad, but life goes on. And then eventually, a few weeks later, they called me. Actually, no, they sent an email saying, hey, are you still interested? We would like to invite you for an interview. They didn't ask if I was still interested. They didn't ask anything. They just say, okay, we have an interview next week at this time. Please confirm if you can come. That's it.
So short notice, so sudden, right? After rejection.
Yeah. And then exactly. And then for me, it was like totally strange because I was rejected. I had no hopes for getting a job there anymore. And then when they invited me for the position, they didn't even ask if I was like still interested. So I'm not sure if it was like a problem in the system or something happened, someone gave up.
I think it was.
I don't know.
It could be more like someone just backed out and then they were like, okay, these are the people on the waiting list, but they just didn't confirm like your interest or whatever. They were like, we're a big company, everyone wants to join us or whatever.
Yeah, and then that was strange because I didn't have any additional interviews on the phone. They just like invited me for an interview here, like with the company directly, and that was it. And then eventually I got the job, but it was really strange.
So it feels like you skipped some steps, but we'll get back to the steps in a minute of interviews and all that. Okay, Adel, did you have such a kind of a strange experience with the application phase?
I mean, I didn't have some experience myself, but my brother, he applied for a job like 5 years ago when he was doing his bachelor's, I think, in Italy. And then in 2019, the company wrote back. He applied on LinkedIn and they were like, are you still interested? And he was like, I'm not even in Italy now.
3 years later or something, right?
No, more than that. I think more or less 5 years or so. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So sometimes they just go back to their archive. They find like a CV and they say, maybe we should email that person, huh? or it's automated. And Georgi, did you have some such strange experiences?
Your brother's case was, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
I see myself receiving an email reply.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
for me, I don't recall having any strange like that.
Okay, situations. Omar, did you have such strange situations during your interviews?
I don't have that kind of strange experience, but what I remember, all the rejections were coming Friday afternoons.
Seems like an automated process. Like
Yeah, I
they'll
mean,
just bundle them for Friday.
before they are going to weekend, they are
Yeah.
sending send buttons.
They like
rejections.
So intentionally they like to ruin other people's weekend.
Yes,
I see. Okay,
Drop and run.
different experience, different phases. If you want to talk about how complicated those get, so let's now assume, or you can tell me about an example when you got this positive feedback and you say, okay, hello, Mr. Osama, we got your email. We'd like to invite you for our interview. This will be a phone call or whatever, live, or we'll invite you to the company. How did that, go? Like, what kind of contact did you have, and what was like the first step as an interview?
Yeah, so when someone calls you for an interview, that's quite good, because in the 200 applications that I did, I maybe did 4 or 5 interviews. So when they call you for the first interview, then it's actually quite good, because normally the HR person wants to talk to you for some time. I've never had a rejection from that stage, and then they refer you to the team lead or whatever, the guy who's actually going to work with you. And that's actually a really nice interview. So those guys are actually looking if you do have the skills for the job. If you don't have the skills, they'll say no to you. If you have the skills, then you have a good chance. So I have had a good experience with once the interviews starts. So you have 2 or 3, sometimes 4 interviews, but it's a fair process in my experience.
So it starts with someone from the HR team. Then he kind of ticks some question marks. He gets some answers, and from there he takes you forward to talk to someone from the engineering team or the technical team. And then if you also tick the right marks with that person, you might go to the supervisor or the team lead, and then you reach some further steps of those interviews. But the first step is usually with the HR, right?
Usually, yeah.
I would say my experience is a bit different, because the first interviews were always telephone with recruiters, I might say.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not with the HR. So first a recruiter from, even based on various locations in Europe. First they talk, they call, they have the telephone interview. It's the basic, just explain about yourself and more but more direct, let's say, HR questions. It's like who you are, what you do, what do you know, what do you expect, and that's it. Then you have the interview in the company with the company's HR. So then
I think it depends. I mean,
yeah,
so
of course,
the companies I have applied at, if you apply at big companies in Germany, I think mostly their own HR handles it, because they really care about their future talent and all. But some companies, of course, they outsource it, and you can easily tell it, because my experience says like 5 or 10 minutes into the interview, you can say it's either like an intern sitting in the HR. She has like a checklist, or he has a checklist in front of him. Or it's just a recruiter, because they have those very typical questions. They don't have cross questions, maybe every now and then, but like they have this kind of line, they're going through it, and you can actually see like, they're just checking some boxes, But if it's actual HR and not an intern, then you know that they are really into the answers which you give, and then they will just pick more questions from those answers. So it's more kind of like spontaneous.
That's the second or third interview, Adil, the real HR interview. That's usually not the first one.
So
it
the first
depends.
one is usually
I had very mixed kind of experience. I mean, sometimes even the first one is just directly with the HR, and actually 2 to 3 people from the HR. So they all have their questions, and they're done in an hour, and then that's it for them, actually, something like this.
So it might vary from company to company. There are companies who have like more than one person, even from the first interview. There are some companies who subcontract another recruiter to filter through and then send them a short list of candidates So they use, they spend less effort on that shortlist. So it might depend. The process might depend. But before we move forward a bit more with what kind of questions you might be asked, we skipped on a small important thing though. So you have applied for 200 companies, you sent 200 CVs, one of them has contacted you, but when that one contacted you, you will go back to check what was the job offer I applied for, right? After 200 applications, you'll have to go back to that. And how would you like kind of sometimes think, I applied for that one, but I didn't really like it. So when you start applying that much, how selective are you when applying, right? If you apply for 200, like, is it each one of those is perfectly fit for you, or you have to kind of, lower your standard and look for whatever is 10% suitable for what you can do?
I can only say first the filter starts very, very tiny, very tiny holes, and then as time progresses, the holes are getting bigger.
The more you see, you feel that you're in trouble, the more you feel like, okay, maybe I should apply for anything I see in front of me, right? So a lot of McDonald's, KFC, and Burger King applications.
No, actually, what happens is I didn't apply to those many companies, but still what happens is some companies, they do take the job posting offline after some time when they have shortlisted the candidates, So sometimes what happened to me was I didn't save really the job posting. I didn't even know, exactly what they were looking at. But I was lucky in a way that I was just applying for 20 programs, so I knew more or less what they're looking for. Yeah.
So you can get go ahead.
The advice for that, what I did is save the job offer, save a screenshot of the job offer, and have everything in folders. Even for one company, let's say a big company like Siemens, there are a lot of job offers, so I would have a folder Siemens, and then under that all the jobs that I applied, and follow that logic.
That's a good tip, right? So it's good if you organize yourself, if you document the process, you save the data, the companies you applied for, you do at least a print screen of the job offer and all that,
right? It can save you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what more or less I did as well. But the thing is, sometimes you're like, it's, I don't know, 2 in the night. I just kind of like bookmark it. I'll do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow it's gone.
It's better to leave it for a second day, right? For the next day, so you're aware of what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So Omar, I'm gonna ask you: Did you get into that situation where a HR calls you and say, "Hello, we are from this company," and then you say, "This company who?"
No. Actually, I prepared myself as George said. I always save the job descriptions.
Okay.
So
I
didn't
you never asked in HR, sorry, what is the job about?
No, I didn't. Not happened.
That would automatically fail you the interview, right?
Yeah, you don't have a chance.
You should not get into that situation. But did you ever get as a very strange question that you wouldn't have expected or you weren't ready for?
I had the 200 applications and then 15 interviews.
Okay.
Technical question, personal question, soft skills, they are testing everything. I mean, sometimes the interview is 1 hour, sometimes it's 2 hours. In one interview, they ask a lot, everything. And then at the end, the technical guy taught a little bit and he couldn't find the question. And he asked, Mr. Toskoparan, were you a good student at primary school? I said, what the fuck, why primary school?
Yeah, the kindergarten. Did you get your friend with the chocolate bar?
Then I laughed and I said, okay, my parents didn't complain. That means I was good.
Okay, so he wants to go back to your childhood thinking and your core personality as a child.
I couldn't understand the logic behind the question. So still, I cannot understand.
So you mentioned
maybe it was the filling question just to fill the gap in the conversation.
I see.
I don't know.
Or maybe it was just to surprise you and maybe to kind of put you in an uncomfortable situation to see how you deal with it.
Well,
that's common
also,
me, right?
So
you did mention an important fact there. After you applied for about 200 jobs, you got 15 interviews. That's a success rate of 7.5%, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to get, let's say, which is a reasonable number, if you want to get 10 interviews, so talk to 10 companies about a serious job opportunity, you need to apply at least for 160 companies, right? To get 10 interviews if you're lucky, right?
I think Rami, it depends. I mean, if you
Yeah.
say I only applied 30 jobs, but I give my 100%, I change my CV every time, I kind of make changes to my cover letter and all. Or you say, yeah, I don't care, it's 1% relevant, just send them the CV via email or just upload it. That's pretty much it. So I think it's not the number, like the quality factor should also play a role there. It's not just the quantity, because if you're not really doing anything special about your documents, you might actually have to apply to, I don't know, 300 or 400.
Yes, so it's very important.
Yes and no.
That, right? But it is important to mention that you have to, put some effort into it, not just send files, to every link you see in front of you.
But I must say,
yeah, Diego, you had a comment on that.
Yeah, but I must say that like sometimes like I see like, I don't know, a job position that I like, but I don't have the time to prepare like a CV for it or a cover letter. So I just send what I have. And there were cases that like I didn't put so much effort in preparing the CV and the cover letter, and I applied for jobs, and actually I got like a reply from the companies, while sometimes I put a lot of effort and put a lot of time preparing, and I don't get any feedback. So it depends. I guess it's like also a mix of luck, and timing, everything.
If you are the perfect candidate for a job, and if they want you to do job that is ABC, and you just finish your master thesis that was ABC, but it is a ghost job, so it doesn't matter how much effort you put into it anyway. But these are rare cases, right? That's why you have to try to do your best in every case.
Yeah, and if they already have someone for the position, also doesn't matter like how good you are. They already have the person. Even if you're like you're the best person for this position, you know everything about the topic, but they don't care. So at the end, it's just let's say you need to have like that little bit of luck.
So there will be some frustration, of course. I guess all of you went through some frustration of applying, rejection, and did any of you like find that dream job, like this is what I want, and you got the rejection on that?
Yes.
Osama, can you give me like a clear example of how was that situation?
Yeah, so this is what Adil was talking about. So it happens quite often that you're trying to like mix up your CVs. You're trying to write your CV exactly like as the job says. And that's what happens when you find a job that you really like. Then you spend a lot of time on the CV for that. It happened with me many times. But yeah, you don't even get an interview. And then sometimes you get an interview for a job that you have no idea what's actually going on in there. So for me, it was not the experience that I got the job in the field that I actually liked and had experience in. It was quite random for me.
But the advice here is that you should prepare, and you should, let's say, try to make your CVs and your application letters and everything as best as you can for each job, and then just see what sticks. I mean, it's not just numbers, it's not just qualitative, it's not just quantitative, it's a mix, and
it's a combination.
It's not black and white.
And also, the technical knowledge you have is only half the thing, because first you have to get past the recruiters.
And they have personality, character, having the right smile, shaving.
So Adil also, he had a positive experience because he spent some time in Italy, he spent some time in the US.
Yeah,
these are the things that they really like, the recruiters.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, the problem was I thought my profile is quite good. And the problem was that mostly I heard from people, they really care about the technical knowledge and everything and relevancy and whatnot. So I applied to like 2 or 3 really kind of my favorite companies, and then I got rejections from all of them. And then there was one interview from some company, and I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, I recently did some internship interviews and all. Where can it go wrong, right? And then they just started it. They didn't say introduce yourself, strengths, weakness, all this bullshit. They just started very typical kind of, personality related questions and experiences from the past and everything. And all this was also in German. So first of all, everything was spontaneous for me. And secondly, explaining the whole thing in German. So I figured sometime through the interview, it's not going to work out, but I was just taking notes of all those questions. And then afterwards, I was focusing only on those HR things, because for training programs, I mean, they don't really care about your technical knowledge and all, because they're going to send you to different kind of domains anyway. So it's just about kind of the person you are. So then it did help, but by then all those kind of favorite or top 3 or 5 positions were gone. So yeah.
I see. Omar, you had an example to tell us about this dream job that you applied for. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, the job was related with my master thesis,
Yeah.
and one of the leader automotive company in Germany, also in world. I had the interview, first HR, then with the technical leader and HR again together. There was a cross questions, one question coming from HR, then one question coming from technical lead. You should, like a tennis player,
yeah,
reply them. And it was quite good. And the interview was planned 1 hour, but it took 2 hours, for example. I say it was the positive message for me. And after 2 weeks, they didn't send the email, they just called me. And I hear the voice of the HR. I said, okay, I made it. But the voice was very, very deep. And I understand, okay, something is wrong. The tone was not good. They said, okay, we like your profile. The interview was good, but we need a guy who has more experience than you.
Okay.
So it was the end of the dream.
It's not common to do a rejection by phone, right? You usually just send a letter, email for that, right?
Yes.
Because so sometimes you get the impression that everything is positive, I'm doing good, and I'm gonna get to the next phase, and then you could be surprised with like a surprise rejection, right?
You got a personal touch there.
Okay, so
in my case,
yeah.
There was this, just to add something to Omar's experience. I got a call from a company, and they called, and normally they send an email, but these people, they called and they were like, everything was fine. And then I was like, but, and then she started laughing and she was like, yeah, but we found like a better profile and all. I was like, can you also tell me why that profile was better?
Yeah,
because I mean, you calling me, yeah, thank you, but it doesn't really help me. And then she was like, okay, I'll check with my other HR, like team members, I'll get back to you. And then she did actually call me after like 2 days or so. And then she highlighted some points. She was like, I can't mention all of them, but these are some points, where kind of like the applicant was better. So I was like, actually, this is good. So every time I was getting a rejection, I was asking them why I'm getting a rejection. Of course, they don't always reply, but some companies they do. Because in my case, I mean, although I applied only to like roughly 25 companies, from the first 15 or so, I got rejections, So it was kind of like this whole rejection phase in the beginning. And then when it started happening, it happened just in 1 week. So all the acceptances I had, like, I don't know, like 10 or 12 interviews, and then finally 6 or 7 job offers. Everything happened within a week for some reason.
So it is important. That's an important tip also, to try to ask when you get the rejection of what were the reasons, and that will help you improve, right? If it's something on the CV, it's something you said, or something, So these would be tips for you to improve for the next application, right? Definitely. So that's important to mention. We reached almost the end of our time here. So I have 2 things to close with. First is there's a lot to talk about: job application, job procedure, interview. So I hope this video was kind of an informative summary. You can always, people watching this can always write in the comments on the YouTube or wherever this is posted. If they have questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them, or you guys can also answer them if they have specific questions about your cases and your situations. At the end of this, I'm going to ask you each to give 1 tip, 1 final advice for the people watching. I'll start with Omer. Do you have an advice for the people watching when they're applying for a job?
Yeah, don't give up, just apply.
Okay, so Johnny Walker, keep walking. Okay. Yeah. Osama, do you have an advice?
Yeah, stay strong. Same as Umar.
There is some psychological pressure in the process, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be ready for it.
Quite tough.
Okay, Diego, do you have an advice?
Start as soon as possible.
Okay, so time. Use the time early.
Yeah,
that helps you.
Time.
Okay, Adil, do you have an advice?
Yeah, I would say something more related to the language, because if you're applying in Germany, if the job posting is in German, I know so many people who did this. The job posting is in German, and then they say, yeah, we need good English knowledge. And the person thinks, oh, yeah, everything is fine. They just need English, they don't care about German. I mean, the posting itself is in German, so they need German, let's say, as well. So I would say, I mean, if you somehow somehow are applying to these kind of postings, then try to apply in German, or at least try to show that you know some German. Otherwise, you'll keep applying, but you won't get any kind of response. I mean, if you get lucky, maybe yes, but if you're really looking for a job in English, try to find job postings in English and then move to the postings in German.
Then obviously, if you plan to work in Germany, it's always good to improve your German.
Yeah.
And if you want to really push yourself, it's better to even, work in German and improve your German level to the maximum you can. Then you can also apply for jobs that require only German language.
Yeah.
That could improve the chances for you and, give you access to more jobs that you could apply for. So language is very important, at all phases of the process. Georgi, do you have your also final advice?
Yeah, to be organized. So as I said, organize your application, adapt all application files for the jobs you applying for, and don't stop.
So a messy engineer responsible for a production process is that's not gonna work well, right?
Yeah.
So you have to at least on your own be organized, and then reflect that to through your interview, and then later in the company to be an organized person. That's always very helpful for any company, right?
Yes.
So thank you all for those tips. Thank you all for joining me on this talk. Let's hope we can meet again and talk again next week on the second part of this, or the fourth part of this. Probably gonna have a complete episode about PhD, because you could choose not to go into industry, you could choose to go for a PhD, and that needs its own 50 minutes talking a topic. So thank you guys again for this. We'll hopefully see you again next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Ciao.
See you.
Yeah. Good evening. Bye bye.